以下係一段喺2006年5月23日於美國 KTVU.com 所播出嘅一個有關莫吉龍斯症 Morgellons 嘅新聞節目，內容係訪問一位名為 Willie Koch 嘅前奧克蘭運動家，美國職棒大聯盟球隊投手。佢同太太都係莫吉龍斯症嘅患者，由2002年開始，佢哋都出現唔能夠愈合嘅傷口，傷口不斷生出黑色嘅細絲，甚至連佢嘅肌肉都開始失控，令 Billy 被迫退出職棒生涯。
New research on a mysterious skin condition we've been investigating here at KTVU may come as a bit of a comfort to sufferers and says this is not something they've imagined. It's quite real. On the other hand, there's no known cure. In tonight's special report, Health and Science editor John Fowler has the latest on the disease, including a talk with a former Bay Area baseball star who knows all about it.
Both horrifying and fascinating. From here in Florida to the Bay Area, something seems to be causing a mysterious new disease. Former Oakland A's pitcher Billy Koch has it, and so do his wife and their 3 children. Though they can afford top medical care, doctors have no answers.
You know what? Something weird is going on, and something needs to be done.
He freaked out. He wanted to ignore it, which I wanted to too, but when it comes to your kids, you gotta stop ignoring it.
It started in Oakland 4 years ago. Billy saved 44 games, the top reliever in baseball. His fastball wowed crowds, and then the weirdness.
Some black specks came out of my hand and came out of my arm.
And within 2 years, at age 29, he was out of baseball.
Twitching. Just uncontrollable muscle twitches for months at a time through the night. I mean, and that's just weird.
They say out of slow-healing skin lesions will come bizarre filaments, especially after bathing.
That's when it would just really just ooze, literally ooze out of my skin.
There's no reasonable explanation for it. I know I'm not seeing things, I'm watching it happen. I mean, we're pretty sane people.
They've seen several doctors. Everybody's told them they're crazy, it's in their head, they're delusional.
Dr. Neelam Upal gave the Koches and 15 other patients a powerful anti-parasite medicine and antibiotics that helped temporarily, but the filaments came back.
I've seen them send it to the lab, they can't identify it. They'll say nothing.
It's not enough that you're suffering and hurting and you're an idiot and you're crazy on top of it. I mean, I'm really hurt and I'm really sad and I'm really scared.
The Koches may be the most recognizable of more than 3,000 families nationwide reporting these same unexplained symptoms. There are curious clusters here in Florida, along the Gulf Coast, and in the San Francisco Bay Area, where we begin our investigation into new clues to this medical mystery.
It looks like there's a lot more on your back here.
San Francisco physician Rafael Stricker took samples from Bay Area sufferers. Patients report pustules and filaments that most doctors dismiss.
You're nuts. If you're talking about a white thing coming out of your wounds.
Dermatologists told us it was all delusions, although none had studied it. This scientist is the first to conduct research on this disconcerting disease.
This is definitely the biggest mystery I've ever been involved in.
UC Davis trained physiologist Randy Wymore, now at Oklahoma State University in Tulsa, leads a medical team researching what's now called Morgellons disease. With cooperation from the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, Wymore's team is studying Bay Area patients and others from around the country. His first finding disputes that diagnosis of delusions.
Pathologists and dermatologists and lab reports that these were textile fibers that were appearing in the skin of the sufferers. Well, that's just not true, just to be perfectly blunt about it.
Wymore says his tests rule out not only textile fibers, but also worms, insects, animal material, even human skin and hair. The filaments, he says, are not external contamination, but rather a substance that materializes somehow inside the body, apparent artifacts of something infectious. More results are expected soon. And Wymore says a neurotoxin or microorganism may disturb muscle control and memory.
The neurological effects are the much more severe, life-altering, and potentially dangerous of the conditions.
Wymore says he's about to begin a clinical trial and offers this to sufferers.
We know that there is something real going on here. You're not delusional.
Wymore just released this open letter to physicians treating Morgellons patients. He says doctors need to take this seriously, that what they're seeing is a highly unusual, newly emerging infectious disease.
以下係另一個電視台節目訪問咗一啲莫吉龍氏症受害者，醫生發現患者嘅皮膚生出一啲纖維，亦都出現唔能夠愈合嘅傷口，並且好似有無數嘅蟲喺皮膚內爬行，卻永遠都唔能夠停止。
Please, everything you've learned, please, can't you just give me the medicine, please? I'm gonna die if you don't. I can't.
A call from Leanne Cofield's sister.
I'm in constant pain.
A brief message with a long story. Leanne believes something is killing her mother and both of her sisters. Painful sores cover parts of their bodies, and no one seems to be able or willing to help. Leanne moved from Mobile to Sheffield, Alabama last year to be closer to her family.
This is my mother, Rebecca.
But being close is no longer an option.
I haven't touched my mother since August.
She believes touching is just too risky.
They hurt.
Rebecca Cofield started developing these sores in August of 2005.
They don't necessarily itch, but they do hurt.
Yeah.
And just the emotional and the physical part of it, you know, is just makes me not be able to do much of anything.
The sores on my head and my hair falling out. And
her daughters, Beth and Crystal, also began to develop the sores.
It feels like stabbing pain, stinging. And after having never had any health problems before, I've been treated like I'm a hypochondriac, like I'm, delusional.
They've been to doctor after doctor seeking help. Instead of getting it, they've been called crazy.
They would like to put us in a mental health center.
Leanne turned to the internet, hoping to find help for her family.
And that's where I found that message board of the Morgellons.
And it seemed to fit.
Mm-hmm.
She found countless others experiencing the same misery, a brain fog of sorts, problems concentrating, the feeling of bugs crawling on and biting the skin, and painful itchy sores that produce mysterious red and blue fibers and black specks. Some have even reported finding parasites in their sores.
Another name for the bugs that people see first are springtails. Gathered all the information and ran to it with the doctors who refused to even look at it. These are what people are pulling out of themselves, and the doctors are telling them that they're crazy.
And unfortunately, many of this population has really been treated very poorly.
Dr. Randy Wymore is the volunteer research director for the Morgellons Foundation. He says Morgellons is not widely recognized by the medical community. In fact, many patients presenting the symptoms are diagnosed with delusional parasitosis.
Many physicians, as soon as they hear red and blue fibers growing out of the skin, they think, oh, that's impossible, this must be delusional.
At first, he was skeptical too. Hoping to end the mystery, he decided to take a closer look.
It didn't take very long until I began to think that something might be going on here. We feel that there is evidence that something unusual is going on with these individuals.
And Dr. Wymore says the fibers coming from their sores remain a mystery.
And I actually spent a fair bit of time this last summer collecting samples from 4 different states, from multiple different clothing retailers, used clothing, carpet, sporting goods, clothing. I never found fibers that looked similar to these, and yet the ones coming from California and Texas and Washington and North Carolina, they all looked very similar to one another.
Dr. Wymore and a small network of healthcare professionals across the U.S. are working to find ways to help these people, but they're limited.
To do the organized, systematic research is going to involve a lot of people, and unfortunately have a fairly big price tag associated with it. It's just the reality of modern biomedical research.
That, coupled with the reality that many doubt Morgellons even exists, means a bleak future for thousands looking for relief.
I don't know which direction to go at this point.
It's just pretty much ruined our lives. It's devastating. It's disfiguring. It's mind debilitating. And it has ruined, this disease I have found in the research has ruined lives.